Bam! You know, Bryan, you built a company up called Hanson's Windows. We've talked about it before in the podcast, and you know, you sold it. You did really well on it. What was that transition like? How long did it take you? I'm sure you had in the beginning many days and nights where you lost money or you were struggling and you had to overcome that. What was that timeline like? And then now, what are you doing since you've really received the fruit of your work?
Well, first of all, I didn't have a podcast like this to teach me anything along the way.
Right.
So I made every possible mistake that all of the listeners are going to make if they don't think about what the end looks like before they start. I just did it because I wanted to start a business. I didn't think the whole thing through. But you want to figure out exactly what you want your business to look like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. You want to be thinking of selling your business from the moment you start your business. And typical entrepreneurs worked for somebody else, said, oh, I can do this, and all of a sudden they're in that business. And they don't have that plan. Today, everything that I do has a plan. I have a wealth management guy sitting next to me. He's enormously good at what he does. He's well known throughout the whole community, but he's got a plan that he follows and works that system every single day of his career. And that's why he and I get along so well.
Right. Well, that's good advice. And you're absolutely right. We're always talking about goal setting, 5, 10 years, also short-term goal setting. What does 30 days look like? What does 90 days look like? What does the first 6 months look like? What is that like every day? How do you grind? How do you build your business? And what kind of struggles do you have to overcome?
Well, the one thing I will tell you is, first of all, thanks for all the kind words. I appreciate that. I mean, doing this for almost 3 decades and give it
Good, you owe me $100.
Yeah, giving it the passion that I believe is necessary, especially in today's environment, but in the type of work I do. But the reality of the situation is, you know, you can't get complacent. You cannot get complacent because complacency is going backwards. And the competition's fierce, and it's only going to get more and more competitive in this country. It's just the way it is. And the minute you think you could take the foot off the gas and maybe go in overdrive, I promise you, you will pay for it dearly. In addition to that, I can't argue with anything I've heard. You have to have a plan. You have to have a vision. Do you get up in the morning without knowing what you're going to do that day? You know exactly what your plan is for that day. Why wouldn't you do that 1 year out? Why wouldn't you do a vision of 5 years out? And I can tell you right now, if I get someone who wants to invest, for example, and I don't understand what their time horizon is, I don't understand what their risk willingness is, and I don't understand what their goals are, how in the heck can I guide them and counsel them? It's no different for a business. And I've watched the successes to my right and to my left, and each of you has all those ingredients that are mandatory. And furthermore, why go and make the mistake? I have the benefit of dealing with new wealth, and I have the benefit of dealing with generational wealth. And I'll tell you this right now, you want to learn from the generational wealth because they've already hit the hammer to the thumb. Let's not go figure it out. Let's learn from them. Let's surround ourselves with the best. Let's be able to sponge off of their experiences, be wise of what we're taking and what we're using, and make sure that we give ourselves the optimal chance of success. Otherwise, why do it? Why even waste your time?
No, I very well said. I would agree. And you're right. You're dealing with different personalities. They're similar personalities, but different needs and wants, right? So what Bryan may want to do with his money may be completely different than mine on situational. That's why you've got to talk to people and see what their situation is in order to make their goals hit. So Jeff Sloan, Startup Nation, you've opened many companies, right?
We have.
Sold them. Tell us, when you're opening a business and you get an idea, right?
Yep.
What does that look like? What should the listeners really try to, because a lot of folks are out there like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to open a company, but then they're struggling. What are some tips or experiences that you've had since you've opened so many companies?
Yeah, I operate a company that both starts new companies. We have a portfolio of companies and an incubator here that we're developing and growing. I've had successes myself individually. And then at Startup Nation, we evangelize for, inspire, and provide how-to information for entrepreneurs out there wanting to start and grow a business. Now, a couple of things. It's one thing to want to start a business. It's one thing to dream. You have to commit. Committing to starting a business is critical. And when you make that commitment, you have to equip yourself. Equip yourself with knowledge, equip yourself with the right people around you. You have to amass the right resources in order to make it go. And you have to have a plan. You have to have a plan. You can't, I love, Jeff, what you said about not wasting time. If you let time go by idly, you're getting killed. And that's absolutely true in the startup world. It so happens that we happen to be at a time right now where having certainly a crisis in the world, but crisis breeds opportunity. This is an amazingly great time to think about starting a business. And so you have to find a great idea, that looks forward in the old way that Wayne Gretzky said it. You got to go where the puck's going to be, not where it is. If you can come up with a business plan that's going to be where it is a few years from now, if you get yourself a great plan, great team, get the resources together, and you execute like a maniac, you got a shot to really build something amazing for yourself.
No, and thank you. That's very well said. And I love the Wayne Gretzky analogy
it's
there.
the best. Yeah.
Hockey's the
Yeah.
best. So, Bryan, and this could be open talk, but I really want to figure out the opportunities that we have in our life. There's not a lot, right? I always like to preach, especially on the podcast, that horse comes by only a few times in your life. And if you're scared to take that chance, you're scared to jump on there. Scared money don't make money, right, Jeff? I mean, you got to be able to be willing to lose it in order to make more. And I just want people to understand, when you see an opportunity, you can't be scared to make that decision. I know when you got into business for yourself, Bryan, you were doing sales, in-home sales, and you're like, I can do this myself. But you took a risk, you took a chance without a paycheck to start up yourself. What is that like? Like reinvesting in the company and not having to be selfish? Because a lot of entrepreneurs, the biggest failure I think they have is they try to pay themselves and live like a boss, live like an entrepreneur, and they don't realize they've got to reinvest and maybe not even get a paycheck or make minimum wage until this thing really starts to take off. And then even then, really be humble. What would you say about that, you building your business like that?
I have different types of fear, and I encourage people to have different fear than what they have now. There is not a person alive who doesn't have fear. It's where you're going to have that fear. I'm afraid of working for the same guy for the rest of my life. That scares me. I don't want to be dependent on him. That makes me nervous. Me depending on me? I love that idea. I know exactly what to expect. I'm probably going to overeat a little bit, okay, because I like food more than I like dieting. I know myself. So I know that I'm going to wake up every morning at 6 a.m. I'm going to work 12, 13 hours that day. And I'm going to make sure that I benefit from the fruits of my labors. And by the way, there is nothing wrong with working for somebody else. Nothing. Not a thing. And I like that. But at the same token, starting a business isn't also for everybody. But if you have that desire to be that guy and say, I want to do this, you don't even have to, he brought up about the best idea. All you have to do is better somebody else's. Execute better somebody else's. Did you invent solar, Jayson?
I did
You
not.
did not. But you built a business that sells more solar than other companies do. That's because you put together better processes than the guy you might have learned it from. And that's how this works. So fear is your enemy. But I'd be more afraid of being stuck in a rut where somebody works for a company for years and they end up getting a watch. That scares the hell out of me. So make a little less and do it for yourself if that's your desire. There's nothing wrong with anybody who's on Power Home's team. They love being at Power Home. I've talked to those people.
Yeah.
But there's somebody who's going to wake up in your organization, okay? And one day he's starting his own solar company. Guess what? Wish him well. Okay? And I hope he does it, because that's what this world's about. Overcoming your fears or removing those fears and sending them somewhere else. And once you've done that, I think you're one step closer to getting the life that you want to live. And that's my opinion.
I would agree. Jeff?
So a couple things I would say is, listen, if you play not to lose versus play to win, the outcome's going to be far different. You have to play to win. If you play defensive, unfortunately, you're not going to have the best outcome. And to carry it even a step further, and I've used this line multiple times, those of you that know me, but I got to tell you, I continually go back to it, and that is this. Get comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. If you can't overcome your fear, if you can't address head on the obstacles that you're most afraid of, unfortunately, you're not going to have the results that you ultimately want. You have to overcome those things that we self-build around ourselves, right? We actually make it harder on ourselves mentally. And so get comfortable in an uncomfortable situation is something I was taught from a client years ago. And to this day, I think about it every day.
I live by those rules.
Yeah.
So I love being uncomfortable. I love when I'm challenged. Okay. I meet with entrepreneurs because I want to make a difference in their life. And it's enjoyable for me to get uncomfortable because it means I'm growing. And there's nothing better than growing. If you play not to lose, you're gonna lose.
Yeah, amen to
Okay.
that.